In the back of my mind, you died, and I didn't even cry, not a single tear. In the back of my mind, I killed you, and I didn't even regret it. I can't believe I said it, but it's true, I hate you. These are the lyrics from one of the biggest songs of 2022, Romantic Homicide, which now has nearly 1.7 billion streams on Spotify, a milestone very few artists have ever achieved, let alone someone who was only 18 at the time of its release. Not only that, but David had 2 songs with over 1 billion streams on Spotify before he was even of legal drinking age in the US. Imagine having 33 million monthly listeners before you can even order your first legal beer. That was David's reality. And before this horrifying story came out, possibly the most disturbing thing I have ever read about a musician, I didn't even know David was a musician. I thought he was a streamer, and I'm sure some of you felt the same way. So let's break down this tragic situation and try to put together as many pieces of the puzzle as possible. The 7th of September 2022, a date that changed the life of then 8-year-old singer David. This was the day David released the music video for Romantic Homicide, the song that would become his breakout hit. The 7th of September 2022 would also be a significant date for Celeste Hernandez, a child who was reportedly turning 12 that day. Fast forward about a year and a half to the 5th of April 2024, Celeste Hernandez was officially reported missing in Riverside County. Then, on the 8th of September 2025, one day after what would have been Celeste's 15th birthday, her remains were allegedly discovered in Los Angeles inside an impounded Tesla, decomposed, dismembered into several pieces, and wrapped in a plastic bag in the car's front trunk. The car had reportedly been towed to the impound lot after being abandoned in the Hollywood Hills, where it had been parked for at least a month. The body had allegedly been there for quite some time. On the 16th of September 2025, the local medical examiner publicly identified the body as Celeste Hernandez. The car was registered to David, who was out on tour when the car was towed and hadn't been in Los Angeles. Did he even know who Celeste was? The car may have been registered in his name, but was he or his team actively using it? To try to answer these questions, we have to go back to the beginning. David was born in Queens, New York. In 2005, his family eventually moved to Houston, Texas, where he grew up in a deeply Christian household. His childhood was shaped by gospel music and church choir. He learned piano and grew up in an environment where secular music was mostly absent. In an interview, he once said, "I grew to like being alone and finding creativity in isolation," a theme that would later echo through his art. But that shelter from secular music changed around age 13. Using his school laptop, he heard Gucci Gang by Lil Pump, his first taste of mainstream rap. That moment opened a new world for him, leading him to discover XXXTentacion, the members-only collective, and indie artists he stumbled across in unexpected ways, one of those ways being the video game Fortnite. By middle school, David was homeschooled, which left him with plenty of time and a growing sense of isolation. His friends drifted away, but online he found an outlet by making Fortnite montages. Editing gameplay clips and overlaying them with music was David's creative outlet, but there was a catch: copyright claims. The songs he used in his videos often got flagged, forcing him to take them down. That's when his mother asked him a question that would change his life. Why not just make your own music? David has been very clear about it in interviews, saying that Fortnite is what pushed him to make music in the first place. One night, frustrated by constant copyright strikes, he simply searched how to make music on an iPhone. He remembered the moment, saying, "This app called BandLab popped up. I downloaded it, and the next day I started recording." His setup was as basic as it gets, just an iPhone, a pair of wired Apple earbuds, and his sister's closet as a recording booth, but it was enough. From the very beginning, David approached music like a gamer and visual artist. He once said, "In the early days of creating music, my main inspiration was literally just Fortnite and video games. The cinematic quality of the montages made him want to create songs that felt like mini movies. I try to make music as visual as possible. When you hear it, you kind of craft the music video yourself," David explained. At that time, he was also a professional Fortnite player, but his music wasn't something he calculated or overthought, it was purely instinctive. He admitted, 80% of the time, I'm in my sister's closet listening through my instrumental library without much writing beforehand. I'm a strong believer in letting the sound speak to me. Like an instrumental will sometimes literally tell me what needs to be said." His catalog became filled with songs about heartbreak, loneliness, and longing. But David admitted that many of those emotions were imagined in his early days. He would sit down looking for inspiration, writing these deep emotional songs that made his mother question him. Where are these lyrics coming from? You're homeschooled. What do you know about love or heartbreak? David explained that he would go on Discord and Fortnite, listen to people tell him about their lives, and then turn their stories into songs. It's a strange thing to consider given how vivid, dark, and emotionally charged his lyrics often are. He started dropping songs on SoundCloud, and in July 2022, he released his breakout single, Romantic Homicide. He recorded that song in his sister's closet using the same old earbuds, but eventually, it blew up on TikTok. Suddenly, this teenager, who had been just another anonymous gamer, was now climbing the charts. The track reached number 3 on Billboard's Hot Alternative Songs, and by September 2022, he had signed with the label Darkroom Divided by Interscope. Soon after, he scored his second hit, Here With Me. By 2023, David's success only grew. Keep in mind, he was still only about 18 years old when he released his debut EP Petals to Thorns, followed later that year by a second EP, The Lost Petals. He started performing all over the world and even opened for SZA's SOS tour. At the start of 2025, David dropped his debut album, Withered. Fortnite remained a big part of his identity, and he was even tasked with writing the official Fortnite anthem, Locked and Loaded. By mid-2025, he had embarked on his own solo tour. But fans quickly noticed something strange about the shows. At every city and venue he performed at, a massive silver casket was carried into the event hall and placed right outside the performance room. Next to the casket were baskets filled with stickers and other little items related to his brand that fans could grab almost like a memorial service. As we mentioned earlier, David's music and overall aesthetic were centered around heartbreak, loss, and tragedy, often inspired by imagined scenarios he created while living vicariously through others. So maybe this was just part of his dark artistic vision, but even before everything we know now, it was still a very eerie way to kick off every show. Why would an artist do that? This world tour began on the 5th of August 2025, with its first stop in Del Mar, California. David was scheduled to perform in Los Angeles on the 20th of September 2025. The significance of this is that, as mentioned earlier, a Tesla registered to David had been sitting parked on a Los Angeles street for many days before being towed on September 6. 2 days later, due to the horrible smell coming from the car, authorities opened it and found a decomposing body inside. About a week later, the remains were identified as Celeste Hernandez, who appeared to have been deceased for some time. Sources revealed that while the car was registered to David, it was one of several vehicles he owned, and multiple people had access to it. This, combined with David's reputation for being a kind-hearted and soft-spoken person despite the dark themes of his music, left fans shocked and confused. And this led many people to believe there was no way David could have been responsible for or even connected to what happened. Of course, you are innocent until proven guilty. But as new details continue to emerge, it's important to separate what is confirmed fact from speculation. So, let's peel back the curtain and go through everything we know. As I mentioned earlier, the Tesla had been abandoned in the Hollywood Hills for days before being towed. It wasn't reported as stolen, and despite Teslas being covered with cameras, no footage has leaked online showing the last person who used the vehicle. Neighbors in the area told reporters that the car had been parked there for weeks. When the body was first discovered, David was still on tour. According to NBC, a spokesperson for him said that he had been informed of what happened and that he was fully cooperating with authorities while continuing his tour. After the September 8 announcement that a body was found in the trunk of the Tesla, David still went on performing, even tossing Lavaboo plushies into the crowd at one of his shows. But almost immediately, major brands like Epic Games, which owns Fortnite, Crocs, and Hollister pulled their ad campaigns with him. And keep in mind, this all happened before the body was even officially identified. Once the remains were confirmed to belong to Celeste Hernandez, things took a much darker turn. Investigators stated that Celeste had been reported as a runaway in April 2024 when she was just 13 years old. By the time they found her in the Tesla, she had just turned 15. As of this recording, authorities have not named David as a suspect. However, TMZ reported that police were investigating the possibility that Celeste had been killed inside the Los Angeles home David had been living in. TMZ said investigators searched the property for blood, with LAPD's Scientific Investigation Division spending nearly 12 hours combing through the house. TMZ confirmed that the house was being rented by Josh Marshall, David's manager. To verify whether David was living there, TMZ compared photos David had posted from inside his home to images from a real estate website listing the same property. The pictures matched. David could be seen dancing in the living room, singing in the kitchen with Benny Blanco, and sitting at a piano that looked identical to the one in the listing photos. This shows that David had spent time in this house and was possibly living there at some point within the last 6 months. That is what we know as fact. But now, more disturbing allegations have come forward, strongly suggesting that at the very least, David knew Celeste. This is where things take an even darker turn. As I mentioned earlier, Celeste had been missing since April 2024, leaving her mother desperate for answers. That desperation turned into unimaginable grief when Celeste's body was confirmed to be the one found in the Tesla. Afterward, TMZ spoke with Celeste's mother, who revealed that her daughter had a boyfriend named David. She also said the police description of the body matched her daughter, including a tattoo on her finger that said Esh. This tattoo is one shared by several celebrities like Rihanna, Lily Allen, and Lindsay Lohan. This tattoo design is pretty common in pop culture, but what's disturbing is that David has the exact same tattoo. Right after this news came out, he immediately canceled all his upcoming tour dates. It's also worth mentioning that during the 12-hour search of the home his manager was allegedly renting and where David may have been living, investigators reportedly walked out with a computer and several evidence bags. This means we'll likely be getting a lot more updates on this case in the coming days. But there's even more to unpack here. Take this photo of David, for example. It was taken in Lake Elsinore, California. Apologies if that name was mispronounced, which is in Riverside County, about 70 miles from downtown Los Angeles, where the house his manager was renting is located. This is the same area where Celeste had been living before she went missing. After analyzing Google Maps, TMZ determined that David was standing just 3 miles from the home where Celeste lived with her family before she disappeared in April 2024. The spot he was photographed in is just a 6-minute walk from her house. This detail alone strongly suggests he knew her. And as I said earlier, there's a damning amount of evidence pointing to the fact that he at least had some kind of connection to Celeste. There's even a picture of David with another woman who looks almost exactly like Celeste. Combine that with the fact that she was found deceased in a vehicle registered to David, and the story becomes even more unsettling. At the time Celeste was found in the Tesla, she was 15 years old while David was 20. When she went missing at 13, David had just turned 19. As for David's actual connection with Celeste, beyond her mother telling TMZ that her daughter had a boyfriend named David, TMZ also found a live stream from January 2024, just 2 months before Celeste was reported missing, where she was allegedly on camera with David. In the clip, she can be heard saying things like, Mitch, I got to sign with him," followed by what sounds like her asking if they could delete the stream once it ended. From this video alone, unless David knew someone who looked exactly like Celeste, it's hard to deny that she was someone he personally knew. And here's where we dive even deeper down the rabbit hole. Everything from this point on is still alleged. A Twitter thread from the account ProjerMe claims to have compiled all proof that David did it. The first thing they mention, aside from the live stream video TMZ uncovered, is more photo evidence of David's connection to Celeste. They share 2 images, one showing David and Celeste allegedly together on FaceTime with someone else, and another of David FaceTiming a contact saved under the name Celeste. Additionally, David had a Discord community, and some alleged messages from within it are extremely disturbing. One screenshot shows users discussing how, in early 2024, David was dating someone named Celeste. The song they believe he wrote about her has a chorus that goes, "But you never really cared about the way that everything turned out. You didn't want to fall in love. You're looking out for yourself now. It's starting to piss me off. I thought I had you figured out. Never thought that you would call my bluff. Guess who belongs to someone else now?" This song was released in March 2024, just 2 months after David was allegedly seen on livestream with Celeste, and based on conversations in his Discord community, many concluded that David may have been with Celeste starting in 2022 and that their relationship ended sometime in 2024. Keep in mind, in 2022, Celeste would have been just 12 or 13 years old, and by April 2024, she was reported missing. Screenshots from 2022 show users talking about someone named Celeste being active in the Discord, but by 2024, another user named Kate had become a moderator. with others speculating it was because she was now dating David. When news of the case broke, a disturbing Reddit post surfaced saying, "This guy is a weirdo. A close friend's little sister from the IE ran away last year, and this is who she was with. We think her sister was pimping her out. She was in the 7th grade at the time. LAPD swept his place in the hills. I'm terrified that's who's in the car. Nobody has heard from her in months. I won't release names as she's still a minor, but she was from Lake Elsinore." And of course, Lake Elsinore is the same area TMZ reported David had been spotted in during 2024, just a few minutes away from Celeste's home. They also highlighted a very unsettling tweet from David way back in 2022 that read, "When I was writing this, I got a notification from you. You were talking about wanting to be with your mom and sister again. Take me where I belong, but our circumstances won't allow us to be in our ideal situations. We gotta push through it, bro." Another user in David's Discord even replied to him during a discussion about his